Hello, everyone. And for those of you who just joined us, I'm going to go ahead and get started now after giving everyone a few more minutes to hop on. Thank you for attending our meeting today. Just as a reminder, if you weren't at our January meeting, the purpose of this meeting is to give non-professional trustees a way to get departmental updates and provide a forum for comments and questions. Just so that they have access to the same information that a professional trustee might have access to. And the meeting's also open to individuals who assist and advise non-professional trustees who are generally family members of the trust beneficiaries. Our focus of these meetings is disability trust, meaning a trust that's funded with the beneficiary's own funds and is exempt under our regulations. Because it meets certain requirements. So those are the trusts that we're talking about and focusing on in these meetings. If you have any questions or comments during our meeting and presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat. There will be an open forum towards the end of the meeting for us to address all those questions, but please feel free, if you think of anything, to pop it in the chat as we move along. We're planning on holding these meetings quarterly. So we held a meeting in January. We didn't hold a meeting in April, but we are now holding our second meeting in July. They're planned to be on the first Wednesday of every 3 months at noon. And as long as their interest, we'll continue to hold these meetings. Information on these meetings can be found at the link that is placed in the chat. It is at the Disability Trust Family Member Trustee link. That is where registration links will be posted, meeting materials, meeting dates, as well as any agendas and recordings of meetings. If you registered for a meeting in the past, you will also receive an email with reminders for these meetings, but I just wanted to provide that extra website is there as a resource. My name's Tiffany Walker. I am the department's trust officer, and I oversee the group of folks who review trusts and trust accountings as part of our function at the department. And I also have with me today Ashley DeRenzo, who's the department recovery officer who oversees recoveries from these trusts, as well as Cassandra Keller and Lindsay Westland from the Office of Community Living, who will be presenting on HCBS benefits today. For department updates, I only have one. At our January meeting, we discussed revisions to the Disability Trust notice requirements, which were done by regulatory changes last July. We previously published a memo that was known as HCPF PM 20005 to provide additional guidance on these new notice requirements. After publishing the memo, we received comments from stakeholders, and that was also mentioned at the last meeting that we were working on revisions to that memo in response to those comments. And we have a revised memo going through our internal approval process right now, and it's very, very close to being published, but it's not quite yet published. But as soon as it's published, it'll be available at the other link that I placed in the chat. The memo series communication link, that's the one that ends in memo series communication. So feel free to save that link as well as the link to the meetings and check those for any updates. And that was all I had for department updates. So I mentioned earlier today that we have Cassandra Keller and Lindsay Westland joining us from the Office of Community Living to present on HCBS benefits. We'd like to be able to offer presentations to this group of things that may interest them or somehow relate to the trustee services or other benefits that you're providing to your family members. We often notice that trusts are being used for items or services that could be otherwise obtained through HCBS benefits. While there may be reasons or circumstances that result in a trustee making a distribution from the trust in lieu of accessing these benefits, we wanted to provide this presentation as an additional resource for that decision-making process. So With that said, I will turn it over to Lindsay and Cassie so that they can provide a presentation for you on this.
Hi, everyone. Making sure you can hear me. As Tiffany said, my name is Cassandra Keller, and I am one of the supervisors in our Community Options Benefits section, and that oversees all of the home and community-based waivered services. So today we're going to give you kind of a overview of what waivers are, what waivers Colorado offers, and then talk about some of the benefits and maybe where there might be some overlap of what are covered services and what a trust might pay. So just bear with me as we go through some of the details. I want to make sure we're all kind of starting from the same point and having a level playing field here. So I'll kind of go through those things a little bit quickly. So what we're just trying to help you understand are Medicaid and waiver basics, what waiver services are in Colorado, and provide some resources. So what we have the mandatory state plan benefits, and that covers all things like inpatient, outpatient, physician services, hospital stays, etc. Optional benefits include things like prescription drugs, case management, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and home and community-based services falls into that optional category. So you can kind of see what we have here is this benefit pyramid. We have state plan being where most folks are covered receiving state plan services, those mandatory services. Then we have long-term care, which is often nursing facilities, home health pays in that long-term care. And then the smallest portion of individuals receive those HCBS waiver optional benefits. And we got a question about this being recorded. This will be recorded, and so we can, Tiffany can have that posted on the website, so folks who've missed this presentation will be able to hear. So what are waivers? Basically, they allow participants and their families to remain integrated into the community and have decision-making power over their life. Participants receive services in their home and in the community. Basically, it's something that you have to receive at least one service every month or every 30 days in order to remain eligible. You can only be enrolled at one waiver at a time, and at this point, the DD waiver is the only one with a wait list. So we have 4 children's waivers and 6 adult waivers that offer a variety of services to each one. And so I'm going to kind of go into detail there. So the first is the brain injury waiver for individuals 16 or older who meet and have a diagnosis of a brain injury. These are the services that are available to individuals on this waiver. And I'm going to go into kind of groupings of services, and we'll go into more detail of what those are covered. We then have the community mental health supports waiver, which is for individuals living with a diagnosis of a major mental illness. Again, you have to be 18 years of older and need a level of care that's equivalent of nursing facility level of care. We have the developmental disabilities waiver. This is for individuals living with a developmental disability who need access to services and supports 24 hours a day. So this is the waiver for individuals with an IDD that has a component of residential services within it. This waiver does have a waiting list. You have to be 18 years or older and meet intermediate care facility level of care. We have the elderly, blind, and disabled, which is for individuals that are elderly with a functional impairment, blind, disabled, or those younger with some other type of disability diagnosis. You have to meet that nursing facility level of care as well. let's see, the spinal cord injury is for persons living with a spinal cord injury, obviously. You must be 18 years or older. It is currently available only in the 5 Denver metro area counties. However, that recent legislation has been approved, and so that will actually be expanding. So there will be statewide availability of this waiver. And one of the things that makes this very special is that there's complementary and integrative health services. So that includes acupuncture, chiropractic, and massage that are very specific to individuals with a spinal cord injury. So while someone could have a spinal cord injury and be on the EBD waiver, they would not have access to those particular services. So that's an exciting change. We have the supported living services waiver for individuals who can, with an intellectual or developmental disability, who can live independently with limited supports, or who, if they need extensive supports, are receiving a high level of support from other sources such as their family. Again, ICF level of care and 18 years or older to qualify. We have the Children's Extensive Support Waiver for children with a developmental disability and intense behavioral medical needs. This is from birth to age of 17. They have to meet that intermediate care facility level of care, and these are the services that are available to individuals there. We have the Children's Home and Community-Based Service Waiver, CHCBS. So this is for individuals with medically fragile children who would otherwise be ineligible for Health First Colorado due to parental income and resources exceeding the limit. So this is birth to 17. And as you can see, there's only a couple of services available to them, case management and in-home support services. We have the Children's Habilitation Residential Program, or CHIRP. This is for children and youth with a developmental disability and very high needs that puts them at risk of or in need of out-of-home placement. So this is for individuals birth to 20 years old. We have the Children with Life-Limiting Illness Waiver. This is for children with a life-limiting diagnosis, and it's birth through 18, and they must meet hospital level of care. So this is one that has a little bit different level of care requirement. So those are all of the waivers. All of these waivers has a component of case management, and that's either through a community center board or a single entry point, but there's case manager responsibilities. And so what that is they will help develop a service plan, which is inclusive of how to meet someone's activities of daily living, how to meet their community living goals. They'll help participants navigate the system and understand all of their options to make informed choices. They help connect participants with providers, and they maintain contact with participants regularly and monitor and adjust services as needed according to the participants' changing need. So there is certainly a lot of involvement, or as little as an individual may want, case management involvement. So at a minimum, though, they are helping to create that service plan, connect with providers, and then do their monitoring responsibilities. So here we get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty on what these services are that are covered for these waivers. So alternative care facilities, these are all going to be residential services paid in a per diem. So alternative care facilities is available to individuals on the EBD and CMHS waiver, and it is the equivalent of just assisted living, Medicaid covered assisted living. We have supported living program that is for individuals on the brain injury waiver. And then we have residential habilitation services and supports. So that's either group homes or individuals living in family caregiver, host home type of situations. So as I said, all of these things are going to be paid on a per diem, and that per diem includes things like 24-hour oversight and supervision, medication administration, community access services, personal care services, homemaker services. So this is housekeeping, assistance with ADLs, and then for the RHSS service, it also includes a little bit of travel. Same for supported living programs. So there is some amount of so transportation to and from some activities is built into that per diem service. Room and board is not included in any of this. So members, Colorado cannot cover room and board costs. So each individual is responsible for paying their room and board to their residential setting. At the moment, in 2021, that dollar amount is not to exceed $700. Now, if a provider wants to accept less than that, that's perfectly acceptable, but they cannot charge more than that $700. So if you're seeing trustee members having to pay for things like house cleaning or extra assistance with ADLs or something like that, that is not acceptable and not appropriate, as that's covered by the per diem. However, if you're talking about things like clothing, toiletries, only basic necessities like toilet paper and things, hand soap, that's all covered as part of the per diem. But if they want, certain shampoo, toothbrush, toiletries, all of that would be not included in that per diem service. The next set of services is kind of community integration. So we're talking about adult day treatment, day habilitation, which is constitutes specialized habilitation, which is facility-based, and then supported community connections, which is community-based. It is also inclusive of employment services, and then we have non-medical transportation. So for those day programs where you're either getting like a 1-to-5 ratio, some type of community integration, whether that's in a fixed facility-based setting or out in the community, that's going to be inclusive of social and recreational services. You would have assistance with activities of daily living like eating, dressing, and bathing if that needs to help be done there. They can do medication supervision or administration there. And then there might be some additional services for more complex needs. So there should not be many extra charges or any extra charges for individuals for those services. Employment services, that's for individuals that needing or have ongoing support in the work setting. This could include job placement, development, and job coaching. And then for non-medical transportation, that is services include transportation to and from day programming. So if someone goes 5 days a week to their day program, they could have transportation to and from there 5 days a week. It also, depending upon the waiver, provides transportation and to and from accessing the community. So that could be going to the grocery store, to the bank, if they're visiting family, going to a grandkids soccer game at the park. That's all allowable and not expected. So it's a covered Medicaid service. So as long as they have that on their prior authorization, we would cover that transportation cost. So then there's in-home services, and this could also be out in the community as well, but we're talking about personal care, homemaker, consumer-directed attendant support services, and in-home support services, which cover personal care, homemaker, and some health maintenance, just in a different delivery model, as well as respite, which is covering that personal care and homemaker service when the main caregiver is absent. So to be clear, those include things like non-skilled care for skincare, nail care, bathing, shaving, dressing, eating, walking, exercising, transferring, positioning, toileting, all of that that is non-skilled services. Then for homemaker services, we're talking about general household activities, light house cleaning, meal preparation, making the bed, doing the laundry, and shopping. It's all covered. It's a covered benefits, but it must be for the benefit of the member and not for the benefit of other people's living in the home, or because a child's disability causes extra household tasks. So if it's that an individual is incontinent and has tons of loads of laundry to do, that's covered. So if an individual is receiving personal care and homemaker services, there should not be any additional charging coming from a provider to cover any of these tasks. We have, I don't know if Lindsay, you want to hop on, or I can go through these slides, but we have a whole variety of,
Sure.
Oh, here goes Lindsay. Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Thanks, Cassie. So, under therapies, we do have just an array of benefits and services available to members depending on which waiver they're enrolled on. And the goal is really to support the individual's behavior or the physiologic and psychological needs. And so behavioral therapies exist on the SLS and the DD waivers, and those really are geared towards helping an individual maintain appropriate behaviors or interactions with others. And then we did, for some time, have behavioral services or therapies under the CES waiver for kiddos and also the CHIRP waiver, but those have been moved to state plan. So those behavioral therapies for individuals 20 and under will be accessed through Medicaid state plan benefits. We have behavior management and education, and that is another service geared towards managing behaviors, but it is available on the brain injury waiver. We have bereavement counseling and palliative and supportive care, and also therapeutic life-limiting supports, all types of counseling and therapy for a member and their families for children who have a life-limiting illness. And so it's only available on that waiver. And actually expressive therapy, which is music and art therapy, is also available only on the children with life-limiting illness waiver. Movement therapy includes music and dance therapy, and that is available on the CES and CHIRP waivers. We also have massage therapy, which is available on the CES, CHIRP, and SLS waivers. And then massage therapy is also available on the spinal cord injury waiver, as Cassie had mentioned earlier, along with acupuncture and chiropractic care. And so we are, like Cassie said, really excited that we can offer those three services statewide for individuals with a spinal cord injury coming next year. So that is exciting. I'm going to move on to modifications and technology services that we offer. So assistive technology really includes services that are devices that help an individual increase or just maintain their ability to perform daily tasks. And that consists of evaluating the needs of the individual. So that could be done by a professional occupational therapist or physical therapist. And it just needs to be a device or support that is not covered again by state plan benefits. And so that service is available on the brain injury waiver, the Children's Extensive Support or CES waiver, and then the SLS waiver, the Supported Living Services waiver. We also have electronic monitoring. So this covers the installation and then ongoing monitoring of an individual that might be at risk of falling or otherwise having another emergency while they're alone. And so this would include like your personal alert buttons that individuals wear so that they can call for help in an emergency. We have home and accessibility adaptations or home modifications, depending on the waiver you're looking at. But these are very specific home modifications or adaptations made to an individual's home that just allows them to access their home with more independence. So this looks like installing or building ramps. It could also include installation of grab bars, which a grab bar is actually a durable medical equipment. So that would actually be covered by state plan as part of the state plan Medicaid benefit, but the installation can be done through this waiver service. It also includes widening doorways or modifying bathrooms, modifying kitchens. So really anything, again, that will allow an individual to have greater independence in their home and will help to prevent institutionalization. Finally, we have specialized medical equipment and supplies. So these are, again, there is that overlap with state plan benefits because there are some things that are considered supplies that state plan will cover up to a certain amount. I could use maybe incontinence supplies as an example of this service. So many probably already know that those types of supplies are covered under state plan, but they might not be covered up to the extent that a member may need related to their disability. And so this is really here to help provide assistance with covering those supplies and medical equipment as well. And so this service is available to individuals with a brain injury on that waiver, the CES waiver, the DD waiver, and then also the SLS waiver. And this can also include maintenance and actual upkeep of that specialized medical equipment that we do purchase through the waivers. It covers things like especially designed clothing, and so that might be something maybe someone is using their trust monies to pay for. But if the design clothing is needed because of the individual's disability, then the waiver, if they're on one of these 4 waivers, then it can be covered that way. So let's go to the next slide here. I guess we are at the portion where we will go ahead and ask for questions.
So I think, thanks, Lindsay. I think, the big takeaway is that hopefully we kind of gave you the down and dirty about what is covered under these waivered services and what you shouldn't be getting charged for. So if you see some questionable fee that an individual is being charged in their residential setting or in regards to a home modification, reach out to the case management agency or to the department. We have a inbox here that we'll share the link to because there's a lot that these waivers cover and members should not be charged additional things. So if there's anything questionable that you think the trust is paying for that they shouldn't, feel free to reach out. We have some waiver charts, we have regulations and some resources. So feel free to take a look at that in the downloaded presentation. But here's the contact information. So if you have any questions in regards to something for a home mod or assistive technology, so feel free to email us. We do see that oftentimes providers are double charging people since the family trustees don't know what there's already being paid for. So for example, it might be something to do with the home modification. In these cases, we would see that the waiver pays for, the bulk of it, and maybe something over and above would be by the trust, but it shouldn't be the trust being the first payer. So just want to make sure that those things aren't being double dipped, or if someone is being charged for housekeeping things, they wouldn't need to be, that should be covered by the waivered service. So are there any questions, any discussion, any specific examples folks want to ask about? So Sherry said, case managers generally won't discuss confidential healthcare matters coverage with the trustee. Do I have an alternative suggestion? I think, what you can say, and I think a case manager would be able to say is, hey, this individual is receiving personal care services, but we're being asked to pay for X, Y, and Z. Does that seem reasonable? Or is that covered under the waivered service? I believe, since they're talking in very general terms, you should be able to talk with them. And additionally, you could get an ROI to get that information from the case manager, or whoever's talking to the case manager would need to send that to the trustee. Any other questions?
If nobody has any other questions about HCBS benefits specifically, we can open up the floor to any other questions anybody might have concerning disability trusts. We mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that, the presentation was meant to be an additional resource, and we had a pretty light agenda for this week, but any and all questions are welcome. We're really here to be a resource for information for everyone in attendance. Aaron, I saw your question. If you could be more specific, what is there specific information that you're looking for? I see a couple of people are typing. We could also unmute the lines if that would be helpful too. Tony asks, what's the process of appointing a family member as a co-trustee? That's a legal question that would be best directed towards an attorney. I'm going to go ahead and yeah, Aaron, I saw your comment. Yeah, we cannot offer legal advice. We're more here to be a resource with regards to information regarding any departmental changes regarding disability trust, as well as a forum for any comments or questions regarding our operations. Aaron, I would suggest you go speak with an attorney. I think we'll open up the lines just in case anybody has a question that they want to ask verbally rather than typing. I know some people are on their phones too.
All guests have been unmuted.
I'll wait a couple more minutes just to see if anybody has a question, and if not, we can wrap up. I see there is someone typing. I'll wait a minute for that. All right, well, seeing no additional questions, I just want to thank everyone again for attending. We're in the very early stages. Oh, there's one question that came in. Where can information found on what a disability trust can pay for their beneficiaries? So that's a very specific question, and it depends on the specific trust terms, because different attorneys have different terms they include in disability trust. We have specific regulations that they have to fit into, but every trust is unique and different. So it's a very specific question to that person's circumstances as well as the trust terms. So if you have a question that's specific to a specific trust, I really encourage you to reach out for legal guidance on that from an attorney. So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. We're really in the early stages of starting these meetings. We're really just here to be a resource in whatever way we can. Understandably, we can't answer any legal questions, so I understand the frustration there, but in any way that we can be a resource, we're here to, if you want to ask questions about our approval process, about trust closures, about how we go about reviewing trusts while they're open. We're really here to be that resource, and as well as to give departmental updates. I mentioned earlier that we have a memo that's in the pipeline of coming out to update a prior memo on policies regarding the new notification requirement for distributions over $5,000 from disability trusts. and that memo should be uploaded to our website very shortly. It's in the final approval process stages. I will add that link back right now. Just it's at the top of the chat, but just in case anybody missed it, I'll add that. So be on the lookout for that. And then someone else asked about the recordings. The recordings can be found at the next link that I'm going to add. We should have the recording up sometime late this week or early next week. So any recordings or information on meetings can always be found at that website. You can also always reach out to our general inbox, which I'll also add right now again. If you have any other questions, the next meeting is planned for October 6th at noon. A registration link will be added to that website that I added in, and we'll also be sending out an email reminder to all previous attendees with the new registration link. So with that, we'll wrap up, and thank you everybody again for attending today.
Hello.
Oh, does somebody have a question? Nope. All right. Thanks, everyone.